Welcome back. Part 2 of quite a few in the series. And in this presentation, I'm going to be showing you how to cut the tartan to the client's specifications. What I have are a pair of scissors and a measuring tape and of course the tartan. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be measuring the total length of the kilt, and then I'm going to be making an initial cut, and I'm not going to be cutting the material per se, but I'm going to be tearing the tartan. When you receive a piece of tartan, it might come in a length that has already been cut by the person that sent it to you, or it can be a double width, and if it's a double width, you might have to cut it yourself. So this is the process that I'm going to be showing, how to cut a tartan that isn't a double width, but that has already been cut from the person that sent it to you, i.e. from the mill. So remember, in our previous presentation, I was showing you, or I was giving you a presentation on the salvage of a tartan. One side is usually a better side, and that's what we interpret as the salvage. The other side, if it was not already previously cut, might be a little bit jagged. So you would cut this side and not the salvage side. All right, so the customer's measurements, total width are 23. So there's 23 there. So this portion is going to be used for, you can make it for a waistband or whatever, right? All right, so what I'm going to do is make sure it sits on the edge of the salvage, and use a tape measure that works, and you scroll down, there's 23 there. All right, so it's just above that red line. So I'm not going to cut on 23, I'm going to cut a little bit higher than 23, and the reason for that is when you work with tartan, it starts fraying. So it might fray a little bit if you cut it. If you tear it, it doesn't fray that much. So in my personal professional experience, I've noticed that if I cut a portion, it frays a lot more, and there's a lot more. Can you see here? This person that gave me this has started over there, and can you see they've gone off whack. So by going off whack, you have many threads that are now easily to be torn up. That makes sense? But if it's a nice tear, then only one or two of these will thread, and then after that, that's it. All right, so in summary, I'm taking that, I'm making sure it's at 0. This is the bottom of the kilt. I'm working towards 23, which is just above that red line there. And this is where I'm going to be making my first cut. So what we're doing now is I've taken the measurement and it's slightly above the red line. I take my earnest right scissors and I cut slightly above the red line. Slightly above the red line. And I make one little cut. I move this away, and this is going to be quite intimidating for you that have never seen this before. So can you see the red line was at 23. I'm cutting slightly above the red line. And what you do is you hold this portion firmly and this portion firmly. I'm not cutting through the whole bit, because what's going to happen is if I cut through the whole bit, I'm going to form that uneven jagged edge, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm holding this tartan, this side and this side, and I'm going to be ripping it. All right, This portion, some kilt makers put on the top band around the waist. I do not. The only reason, and I will be talking about this in a presentation to come, is it adds too much bulk onto the waist. So I've got a better solution for that. So this one here is what we've just, this one here is what I've just cut, right? So I take my measurement again, down at the bottom, and I measure slightly above that red line, and that's where it was, slightly above that red line. But can you see now, I've got these fraying, it's only going to fray a bit. So with these additional frayings, all you do, you take your scissors to prevent it from fraying anymore, and you just cut away those little bits. No more than that. And it's not going to fray that much because you've already torn it along the edge. You haven't made additional cuts. So this is the straightest path to one side, from one side to the other. A nice even, can you see? It's slightly above that red line. That's what I wanted. If I used the scissors and cut it, then I might have gone under the red line, and that would have caused a little bit of a hang-up. So in summary of this presentation, what I've done now is I've taken my tape measure and I've measured the client's length, which is 23 inches. On my tape, 23 inches. But instead of using scissors and cutting it, if I used scissors and cut it, my edge would have been all over the show. So I cut slightly higher than I needed to in order to allow for a certain percentage or certain amount of fraying. Once I start working with this, it starts settling in. You're not going to have continuous threads that are fraying, so don't worry too much about it. Once I've pulled it, it's an even edge, it's an even cut, it's an even fray. It's not gonna start fraying. All right, so don't worry about it too much. If you have one or two threads that are loose, that's why I've cut slightly above the line. So in the next presentation, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be marking up to the client's specifications. We're going to be looking at waist, hip. We've already got the length. Stay tuned for session number 3.